Alright, what's up everyone? Let's talk a little bit about 21's steals. So as you know, whenever 21 uses one of her command grabs, she then gets a steal depending on which type of character that she's stealing from. I will leave a chart with which characters yield what steals. I'll put it up on the screen for you guys so you guys can pause the video, take a look at the chart, get acquainted with it because it's going to be very important. Whenever you're playing matches, you're going to need to know what steal you're going to get from who. And yeah, it's going to be very important for playing matches going forward. So make sure to familiarize with this chart. And I will be talking about the individual steals right now. So let's talk about the 236S steals. So first of all, it's important to note that as far as the steals themselves go, they will always be the same steals from the same people or the same category of people. There are individual steals for the grounded and air versions of the command grabs. The slots show the 236S steals first, so it shows grounded and then air 236S, and then grounded and then air 214S in that exact order. So be sure to keep track of what you have in what slot, as I said in the previous part here. So the first steal that we're going to be talking about is a 236S steal. We're going to be talking about 236S steals first, and then we'll go over the 214S steal afterwards. First one is everyone's favorite, Kamehameha. Very, very standard beam. It is not really that special in any way. It's just a beam. It is very good because, like I said, a lot of her neutral game is focused around throwing this. But people don't expect to be hit with a beam from full screen. But most of the time, whenever I have beam in this slot, I usually try to layer it with assists, of course. But overall, you still don't want to be throwing it out in neutral just because, you know, it is a beam at the end of the day. I will be talking about some of the cancel properties of the steals and whatnot after I have covered each individual steal, so stay tuned for that. We'll talk about some of the more advanced options that you have out of these. But beam, come on, everyone loves the Kamehameha. It looks the coolest. I think it's the coolest looking beam in the game, to be honest. I think it looks really cool. At least we have that. So the next steal is the consecutive key. I call it just key volley, which is this move right here. You get it from the yellow yielding characters in the 236S slot. Now the main use for this, of course, it's not super great in neutral due to it being kind of it's like the same exact thing as Vegeta's, Super Saiyan Vegeta's. Very high committal. You don't really want to be throwing it out. Both the ground and the air versions are angled. It's not like Vegeta's where the grounded one shoots directly forward and the air one is at an angle. This one also shoots at an angle. So you are locked into this special whenever you do it. So you don't want to be throwing it out. I usually use it in combos because it does give a good amount of meter. Now it's not, you know, Android 17 JS levels of meter, but it is a good amount of meter for her, especially in sparking. So you want to save this to end combos with. You do want to be careful at the end of like super long combos. They can fall out of it if you're not too careful. But overall, this is pretty interesting layer to add. I don't find myself using it too much, but it is nice as a combo tool. You can, of course, do the same thing as Vegeta where you throw it out, and then if they super dash at you, you level 3 them. Can do that. But other than that, there isn't too much utility, at least found just yet, for this particular one. We'll talk a little bit more about it with the cancels whenever we talk about a bit the steals later on. But like I said, be careful about throwing this one out. All right, you're just gonna want to be really careful. The next two steals that you get from the green and, you know, I call them pink steals. Some people call them purple steals. It doesn't really matter. So that from androids, you get the explosive, what do they call it? The explosive energy blast. It's a really high damage key blast property move that you usually use to set up some extended block strings. So an interesting thing about this one is that I will show you. on block, see that? It's actually plus on block. So if you get your opponent to block this, you pretty much just get a free restagger or you know, reset your pressure, reset your block strings. You can do anything like that. And the best thing about it is not only is it plus, but a lot of people don't know that it's plus. So they'll see you throw this, and they'll block it, and they'll attempt to mash afterward, and you'll just be like, wow, meet my friend 5M, or meet my friend, you know, literally anything. Like you can actually get this to true string into 5M if you do it fast enough. Let's try to demonstrate here. Might take me a try or two. Yeah, so you can true string it into a 5M if you do get them to block it. It is Ki Blast property, so you do want to be careful. Whenever your opponent blocks it, it is treated as a Ki Blast, so that of course activates Guard Cancel Super Dash property and Guard Cancel Reflect property. So you want to make sure that you're using this in a way that, you know, keeps yourself safe around those options if they decide to. But an overwhelming majority of people don't really know how to respond to this move. And it's actually a very, very high damage option at the end of combos as well. So it's overall a pretty cool move. It's just one that you kind of have to finesse a little bit just because of the way the Ki Blast properties work and just being aware that you have it available for a block string. So all right, so the next steel we're going to be talking about, oh, and by the way, this is pretty much the same steel for ground and air for the explosive energy blast. The next thing we're going to be talking about is this homing energy blast. And you thought Piccolo had Reality Stone? Well, this one is way closer in color. It's pretty cool, slow moving projectile. It will go full screen, as you can see here. The air version, you can have two of them out at once. The ground version is bigger than the air version. You can only have one of the ground version out at a time, or two of the ground version out at a time rather. Just like Piccolo. And you can use it for some interesting setups off of sliding knockdown. I know you're like, oh my god, she doesn't have sliding knockdown. How do we do it? Well, I'll show you one of the setups here. So if you get it hit in the corner, and then you choose to spend the vanish and the Dragon Rush, you cancel into the Reality Stone and then dive, and then you have this slow moving projectile that's descending upon them, and it makes them really, really antsy in a lot of cases. And you can get a free stagger out of this a lot of the time. Like if you want to button and then let the Reality Stone make contact, a lot of the time what will happen is they'll try to jump and then they'll be forced to block, and then they'll get pinned to the ground, and you get more pressure. So that's one of the more common uses for it. But overall, it's just a really, really cool tool to have in neutral. You toss it out, you know, move forward. It's really cool to have a slow moving projectile that you can kind of move forward behind. So do be careful, because they can cancel it out with their own Ki Blast, and beams, or pretty much anything. So play around it effectively, and it becomes a pretty cool tool. It also works at the end of long combos, like as a combo ender before supers. You can do it. They buffed them in season 2. They made almost all of her steals able to be comboed into out of Dragon Rush, like end of combo Dragon Rush. But they unfortunately removed one of our cool setups. We used to have a setup where we would end the combo and grounded Dragon Rush, and then do the grounded Reality Stone, and it would not combo because it was slower activation back then, and it would actually pull them out of the corner so we could get a cross up. So you can't do that anymore, but it does work better as a combo tool, and since it's faster activation, it's actually better in neutral as well. So utilize it, and it'll work out for you for sure. So next we're going to be talking about the 214S steals. So now we're on to the steals that you get for using anti-air command, both the ground and the air version. So first, I'm going to be talking about Solar Flare. So Solar Flare is actually very interesting. It's a 10 frame startup move that is not that minus on block. As you can see, it's -1 or -2. And it has anti-air property, just like Krillin. So it has frame 4 air invulnerability, so you can use it to set up traps for people to super dash. Then they get solar flared, and then you can combo out of it with either a dive or a vanish. The really interesting one though, since we're talking about solar flare, is actually the air solar flare. So this is something that Krillin doesn't have, is this. And this is very strong because it is also air invul, and you can use it for option selects out of 2S like I talked about before. So if you throw a 2S and then your opponent super dashes at you, you can press 214S and stop them in their tracks and get a full combo, which is really cool. It also stalls your air momentum, so if you do a jump in like this, you can pretty much set up like a mix-up afterwards. You can set up low air dashes, you can layer it with assists. Just do something really basic here. Whoops. Like there are a lot of different ways that you can layer with assist to make this like usable for sure. One of the coolest things is like if you wanna do something just like really standard and you believe your opponent is going to just tech without delay teching, you can just do a standard jump in, right? Let's say they jump. Let's say they up tech, right? And you like JH, then you can actually lock them to the ground by jumping and then doing this and then calling your assist, and then you actually can get a high-low mix-up off of this. So solar flare is actually a really cool tool if you learn how to use it. So since you keep your air actions and it has very low recovery, and on top of having the anti-air property, it makes it a really strong tool, both for like staggers and for like just random mix-ups that you want to throw in at your opponent. Now do keep in mind that all of 21 steals are one-time use now. You use them and then the slot becomes open again, so we can't like just spam this on people like we used to be able to, but still try to find whatever uses we possibly can out of them. So solar flare is one of the strongest in my opinion. I believe solar flare is just a little bit under the strength of the yellow command grab, but solar flare is really strong. The air solar flare in particular. The grounded one is very good, but the air one is really unique, and the hitbox is huge. Like as you can see, like I actually make contact from like all the way out here, so like you're gonna stop people in their tracks if they try to move against this move. So alright, the next steal in the slot is my favorite, the Sticky Energy Blast, they call it, right? Sticky Energy Blast. So what this is a command grab. So it has a lot of things to it. First of all, it is frame 1 air invulnerable. Yes, frame 1 air invul, which means there is not anything that your opponent can press against this in the air. They will get grabbed. So on the ground, it works as such. It whiffs on crouchers. So unfortunately, it doesn't add another layer to her crazy mix-up game most of the time, because like, you know, a lot of people are going to default to crouch blocking. Try to do this, you will whiff. I will say that the recovery after it is like pretty, like there's not that much recovery after it, so that is nice. But usually don't try to just like raw command grab people out of this. What it mostly shines with is setting up a lot of option selects. So even with the grounded version, you can set up some buffers where you key blast and they super dash at you, and you see how that whiffs. See how their super dash activates the cancel property, it activates the invulnerability. Now, under normal circumstances, they will actually get grabbed here, but there are some really weird interactions like you're seeing now, where like your opponent's super dash hurt box like just dodges the command grab, which is why the grounded one is not nearly as good as the air one. But there are circumstances where you can bait your opponent to coming in and then punishing. And now in season 3, they have made it so that these command grabs now cause sliding knockdown. So if you do find a successful grab, like I just did, I'll do it again, you do get Oki afterwards in the form of, most of the time you want to go for IAD JH, but it does give you enough advantage to like run up and pressure afterwards, so that is very nice. Now on to the air command grab. Now this one is going to be really funny. So I really don't know what they were thinking whenever they programmed the air command grab, but the effective range on it is like pretty insane. So if I stand here, see how she like tracks? She like tracks no matter where you're at. So even if I'm down here, you like look at the range on this. This is crazy. And like I said, it is frame 1 air invulnerable. So if your opponent is trying to press buttons or even existing in neutral like a decent amount away from you, you can press this and you're gonna grab them and they're gonna be pretty upset. And they also buffed so that if you land with this and you choose to do a dive afterwards, it now teleports to them so you can combo from anywhere. It also sets up some whiff sparking setup, so I'll try to show you here. So you can actually combo out of this solo now, and this does a lot. So this can be a very, very useful tool, especially whenever you have limit break. If you're solo and you have this grab and you find someone, it's spark, deal a ton of damage, get a lot of meter. But like, man, this tool is so insane. The reason a lot of people don't know why they made it so 21 loses her steals after she used them, well, this is the reason. Because since this tracks so well, with the way old Snap was, this was virtually unblockable, because even if you held up on incoming, it would track you. So pretty much the only ways out were to mash vanish, which is naturally very risky whenever you're incoming, right? Because if she does anything else, then you will get meatied and you will die. So that's this command grab is definitely the reason that they made them single steal only. But when we do get this steal, we get to play a pretty degenerate neutral game. Like this is pretty crazy, the way it tracks and everything, and it has very, very low recovery afterwards. So even if you whiff, but let's say you whiff, look how fast you recover there, and there's no landing recovery on this either. So yeah, you're pretty lit here. Like, you can do whatever you want after this. So it's very, very strong tool. I believe it is their best steal out of everything. Like, out of all the steals that I've gone over, I believe that this is her strongest one due to all the things that I named up until now. So anytime you can get the air command grab, you want to take it. The grounded one is less of a necessity, but it can still be used for a lot of the same things that the air one can. It's just that since the range is much smaller, you don't get as much use out of it, since this one is the one that tracks from so far away. So definitely want to take that steal whenever you can. All right, after this, we're talking about got the barrier. So this barrier is virtually the same as Android 18's barrier. So an interesting thing though is that so I'm gonna get a little bit into the way the cancels with the steals work. So whenever you use a steal, you can cancel even on whiff into a dive. So if you barrier and then you press M, you will get M dive or L dive or EX dive, right? So a very interesting thing is that they made it so whenever she barriers, she keeps the barrier on her when she dives. And what this means is that, say you do a block string and your opponent tries to mash 2H on you, you cannot be 2H'd. As you can see, the anti-air property, the blue circle activated, but since I have a barrier on while I'm diving, my opponent just looks dumb, and then I 2M punish them. So this is a very, very interesting move that she can incorporate into her game plan. I've only really done this to someone once or twice before in a match where I did a block string and then I clicked the barrier, and then he thought I was gonna 5S, so he tried to super dash and he got smoked because the barrier, you know, stopped him and whatnot. Or if they try to mash 2H him and like try to anti-air you, and then it doesn't end up working out because you have the barrier. So there's a lot of weird interactions with this move. Very, very all I can really say is that it's interesting. Other than that, it functions as a normal barrier. She gets a ton of meter for barriering moves in neutral, which is a very, very good use. So like if you're full screen and you have this barrier, and let's say your opponent decides to call their beam assist, because we all know whenever people are full screen, they love calling their beam assist to try to get in. You can just barrier the beam assist and get a ton of meter, just like you can with the other androids. So it's very, very well used for that. And she also has an option select for this out of 214 or out of 2S, just like Solar Flare and the yellow command grab. Since it is frame 4 invulnerable, it is very, very strong for that. And she can cancel into supers and whatnot as well upon a successful something interacting with the barrier. So pretty cool in my opinion. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the Sonic Warp. So you get this from the pink steel characters. So the grounded one will always put you behind them and above them. So keep your air action. So if you want to try to throw in some crazy stuff for your opponent, you can teleport, air dash back over, try to mix them, whatnot. You just always have to keep in mind that regardless of where you are on the screen, this move will always put you behind your opponent and slightly above them. That's just how it works. So it's very nice in that regard because it's consistent. You always will know where you're going to be whenever you press this move. And you can also dive out of it as well, just like the others. The cancel window is a little smaller on this one, but if you L dive, you will stay in front. So this is actually interesting. So if you use the grounded one and you cancel with L dive, you'll actually stay in front. But if you do M, you'll go behind. So unfortunately, we can't incorporate this into our mix-ups as much as we would like to, because of the way cross-up protection works in this game. But it can be nice to throw off people like that. But you will have air property, by the way. So these dives are considered airborne. So if they decide to just mash 2H on whatever you're doing, you will get 2H and you will be sad. Now the air teleport puts you behind them, but on the ground. So this is very useful for you just trying to get to the ground quickly. There are times where I'm like, oh man, I burned my double jump. I don't have really a lot of movement options left, and I will teleport so I can get to the ground quickly. That's the main use for the aerial warp, in my opinion, is just to get to the ground quickly, which is a very valuable tool in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Being able to get to the ground as soon as possible is definitely a valuable tool. But as far as like doing mix-ups and whatnot, the grounded teleport is better because it puts you airborne. It doesn't take an air action, so you can super dash afterwards, you can jump afterwards, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And yeah, it's pretty cool in that regard. So Sonic Warp, pretty unconventional. Like not a ton of characters have command teleports, but hers are like consistent in the fact that like they put her in a set position in regards to her opponent. And you can also super jump install these, but it's not as good as we hoped it would be, unfortunately. But that is something that you can do. So like if you super jump and then you teleport, if you have super jumped before, you can float afterwards, or you can fast fall afterwards. But unfortunately, since she's so low, it doesn't end up mattering that much. But if you're a tech lord out there, you can incorporate it. I have come up with a few setups myself, but unfortunately, there's not a ton of situations where I get the pink steels in the slots, and then I'm able to layer with my assist to mix them with the warp. But there are a lot of Kid Boos out there, so these are the steals you're gonna get from him, so you can definitely make use of them. So next I'm gonna talk a little bit about the cancel properties of the steals. So each steal, when you use them, like I said before, you can cancel them with a dive, right? L, M, or EX. Oops. So this is important because it's important to know which of them teleport and which of them don't. So, for example, let me get Sticky Energy Blast here. Let's get the grounded one. So if I grab someone with this, no matter where they are on the screen afterwards, 21 will teleport them whenever I press the dive. And I'll be able to follow up from there. Now, for some reason, I don't know why they did this, but for some reason, the way that the side switching works on the sticky command grab dive is the opposite of what it is whenever you do a command grab. So what I mean by that is, so let's say you hit someone with her regular 236S. If you press L dive, then you end up in the opposite direction of what you did the grab, right? So I'm grabbing towards the left here, but if I press L dive, I end facing the right. And if I press M, I stay in the same direction. It's the opposite for the sticky command grab. If I press L, oops, or don't, I stay the same side. And if I press M, I switch sides. So you really got to be mindful of that. Because that definitely messed me up a ton whenever I started in Season 3. They kind of flipped the dives for some reason, but it's just the way it is and we have to deal with it. So, so beam, unfortunately, does not teleport. So like if you hit someone with a beam, you will not teleport to them with dive afterwards. So don't try to follow up with dive after beam unless you're in the corner. It does work in the corner. But if you're not in the corner, you will not teleport. You will just drop your combo. It is unfortunate. So this property of being able to dive out of steals exists for every single one of the steals. It does not matter which. You can whiff cancel all of them into dives if you want to. You can also, so if you have multiple steals, you can cancel one of the steals that you have. So for this, we're going to classify the 2 command grabs you use in the air and the 2 command grabs you use on the ground, right? So grounded 236S and grounded 214S. So if you use one of those steals and you press the S button, you will cancel into the next steal, which is something that's going to take you some time to get used to. So it works both ways. So here you can see I do beam, and then I cancel into the command grab because those are the 2 I have beam and grounded 236S slot, and then I have command grab and grounded 214S slot. Now it works the other way as well. That time I command grabbed and then I press S and it lets me beam afterwards. And this is very, very important for like really cool looking combo extensions, as well as if you have something like barrier or like sonic warp, it'll allow you to like use it for movement and you can get out of the situation afterwards. But do be mindful of the way that she teleports before she uses it. So like if I do beam here, actually I don't want her to die, I'm sorry. So there I used sonic warp after I did beam, right? And I end up down here. All right, so if I do it on the ground, you see how this side switches? And most of the interactions, whenever you press S to cancel your special move into your next special move, will cause a side switch. So you need to keep that in mind whenever you're doing your combos as well. So you see how that side switches. This also side switches. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing your combos. And this is why it's very, very important to know what you have in what slot. Because if you're trying to do an air combo and you press J236S, you have something in the slot, you need to be really careful to not accidentally tap S again, depending on what you have in the slot. Because if you have something else in the slot, like let's say I was trying to do this air combo and I accidentally double tap, then I'm gonna get the warp and I'm just gonna lose my combo. So you need to be very careful about what you have in what slots at all times. This is exactly what I'm talking about whenever I talk about like resource management with the character. It's kind of one of the little high maintenance things that we have to pay attention to when doing combos and whatnot, but it does allow her to do a lot of cool things, especially in combos. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works. If you do a steal, if you have another steal for the same state, so like I said, it's broken up by the command grabs you do in the air and the command grabs you do on the ground. If you have something in that slot afterwards, you can cancel into it. So I'll show you with Solar Flare here. So and then you can still, even after you cancel into another one, can still cancel into dives afterwards. So you can really extend some combos, and it's really cool because a lot of her steals do pretty high damage, max scaled. So like this command grab does a lot of damage at the end of combos. The explosive energy blast does, the beam does pretty good damage at the end of combos as well. So getting a feel for like getting the cancels down and everything can be really beneficial. It lets you do some really cool extended combos like that. Of course, that's pretty wasteful. I used all 4 of my steals and for what? But you guys get the point. You get to do some really wacky stuff when you get all of the steals. So that's pretty much that pretty much covers all of her steals. Like I said, I will both leave a chart with who gives what steal in this video, and I'll leave a link to it in the description under, so that you guys can take a look at the chart and save it. You guys always know what to do. And feel free to ask questions about the steals as well. If you guys have questions about them, or like, you know, you want to know like what type of setups do I go for with stuff like that, I'll be talking about some of those in the advanced setup section. But other than that, that's going to be it for the steals. So we're going to move on to our next section.